want to do is, what I like to do is measure 20 inches from the end here. So here's our nail, measure 20 inches in, and that's this mark right here. This is where we're going to start the serving on this side. And then also, for your reference, this is the 20-inch mark for the other strand. What you want to do is you want to take your serving thread. Now I like using, for the end loops, I like using braided nylon or braided dacron, just because it adds a little more body to the string, so that it keeps the string from cutting into the nocks of the bow. So what you want to do is, this is where the beeswax comes in. You want to take this section for about 10 inches and you want to actually rub wax into the string, just enough so that the string becomes slightly tacky. And what I like to do too is you take the last 4 to 5 inches of your serving material and you run the wax through that too. So different people do this different guys will do this differently. What I do is I start by laying the serving material together with the string, as you can see right here. And so I've got it right above my mark. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want it to be pretty close so that these two strands will line up. And then what you want to do is you want to bring the strand up and around, and you want to actually wrap around the strand here. If you can see, like this. If you can see that. And then you just want to wrap around again. The first 3 or 4 wraps can be fairly loose, because we're going to tighten it up. So what you want to do is you want to pull it tight here and then pull the end so that it's nice and snug, if you can see that. So then what you want to do is you just want to repeat that wrap a couple more times just to sort of get it solid. Tighten it up. Then you want to take your spool and you want to tighten your serving jig up to your string. So what I do is I pull the jig tight, and then with one hand I wrap the jig around like this, around the string. You can see that. And then with the other hand I actually just hold the jig away from the string. So I hold the string apart like this, if you can see. Okay, so one thing you want to do is you want to make sure that this wrap is very tight. So if you can see here, it's a very tight wrap. So you just want to continue this all the way down, and I usually wrap my loops for about 4 to 5 inches, depending on how wide my string loops are going to be. My string loops are usually pretty wide because I'm doing this for a PVC pipe bow, which has wider nocks. So I'm going to continue for 5 inches, and I'll show you what that looks like. Alright, so as you can see, I've gone for about 4 3/4 inches. I'm about 1/4 of an inch away from the 5-inch mark. So what I do at this point is I pull my string server away, and I pull out about a foot, maybe a little more, about a foot to 18 inches of serving material out. I cut that. What I do is, if you can see, I take my finger, wrap around, creating a loop here. It's really simple. What you do is you take your extra string, you run it through the loop, creating a little wrap here, if you can see. Maybe move this a little bit out. And then what I want to do is just wrap this around till I've covered about 1/4 of an inch of string over here. This doesn't have to be super exact, just get the material down. You may have to shorten your loop to have enough material here. Once you've covered about 1/4 of an inch worth of space, what you want to do is you want to take this end here, this loose end, and bring it underneath your wrap, your original wrap for your serving, and then you want to start wrapping over that. And what's going to happen is that this portion that you just wrapped over is going to come from here, and it's going to be deposited over here, if you can see what I'm doing. Alright, so now that it's down to that, what you do is you take your loose end and you want to pull it through. There you go. Just, you want to pull that really tight, and then you go ahead and you trim the end. And here we have one loop here that's served. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to repeat this on the other side. It's the same thing, but I'm just going to start it for you guys so you can see how this works. All I've done is I've turned my jig around. So here we go. What we're going to do is the exact same thing we did to the other side. Now, what's important here is that you want to make sure that the extra strands, you know, you see these loose strands here? There's this strand and then there's the other strand. You want them to be tight because you want them to blend in with the other strands. Once you've put your once you've put the wax in here, it should hold fairly well, but you want to make sure that these are tight, because if they're not, then this will pretty much ruin your string. But just as long as everything's fairly tight at this point, it'll be alright. So put your wax in there, and we're doing the exact same thing we did on the other side. Wax the end of the serving material. You want to go ahead and you want to lay the serving material down on the string. Then you want to wrap around a couple times just to set it in place. Pull it tight, make sure it's nice and snug. Okay. Make sure that it's snug. Then you want to pull your string jig up. You want to go ahead and hold your other strand down and then just start twisting your server around the string. One thing you want to do, one thing that's important, is you want to make sure there are no gaps. The gaps will be weak spots and your string may start to come apart at those areas just because the serving will bend, if that makes any sense. There won't be any reinforcement there, and so you'll have excessive wear on the serving and the string in that area. But you just want to keep going. So we're just going to go down 5 inches again. So I'm going to finish this off. It's the same way we finished off the other loop. Same thing with that, where we twist the end back on itself. And so once I've done that, we'll move on to securing the loops. So here's our finished loop here. Now what you want to do is you want to pull off your knot and pull out your extra strand here. You can see. So this is the first extra strand. And you just snip that. And then on the other side, you want to undo your other knot. Pull your extra strand up. And snip it there. And here you go. So now what you want to do is you just want to take your wax and just rub it in to about 1 inch of the exposed serving on both sides. And you also want to go ahead and do this on your other loop as well. Now what you want to do is we're going to actually move the loops around. It's going to be easier to show you this from a distance, so I'm going to show you that. Okay, so now there's a little distance, you can see a little better. Here are my loops. What you want to do is you just want to move your loops like this on your jig. So you can see here what's happened is that the serving is now running on top of the nail here. I'll bring this a little closer so you can see what I'm talking about. So what you want to do is you just want to pull the string like this. So this will become your loop when we serve the two together. You want to go with your other side and you want to make sure that they're staggered by about 1/4 of an inch. If you can see that, there's a stagger of about 1/4 of an inch. And on this side, you've also got the stagger of about 1/4 of an inch. What that stagger is going to do is it's just going to allow this to come together a little more smoothly. So before we start serving this, what you want to do is you just want to wax this entire portion. And I like to wrap my loops for about 6 inches down just to be secure, though they don't have to be that long. I've seen servings that were shorter than 3 inches. But that's just what I like to do for a little extra insurance. So once you've done that, you'll notice if you want to go and check, you want to make sure that your string has an equal amount of strands in each bundle. Now one loop will actually have an extra strand inside of it, but the strands themselves are going to be equal.